Hello and welcome back to The Scoop on K-State, a show featuring leaders of Kansas State University and our efforts to become a next-gen land-grant university. I'm pleased to introduce our guest today, Ethan Erickson, who serves as Vice President for Administration and Finance at K-State. And in this role, Ethan's responsible for providing strategic financial management of the university's more than $900 million budget. He oversees campus-wide budgeting, capital planning, you manage campus administration, and he operates overall management. So, Ethan, thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Adam. It's great to be here and share a little information about all the initiatives we have at K-State right now.
Yeah, we got a lot coming up in terms of budget and capital projects. Yeah. So I'll kind of go through and read a little bit of bio here. I think your mom may have written this. It's a little long, so let me take a little time. So, but I think people will enjoy learning a little bit more about you.
Yeah.
So you're a K-State alum, which is pretty neat.
I am.
You have both your undergrad and master's from the College of Business here. You've been a member of the staff since 2014. You were hired as Assistant Vice President of Budgeting. You developed and implemented the university's new performance-based budget model, and very impactful. In 2019, you were named the university's Chief Financial Officer. And prior to 2014, you also served in various roles with the Kansas Department of Education, Kansas Department of Transportation, and the Division of Budget in the Kansas Department of Administration. So you're obviously involved in different entities, and we're very glad you're back here at K-State. You've been back about 10 years now, I guess. What does it mean to personally serve your alma mater?
Oh, it's fantastic. I don't think I can express enough what K-State means to me personally, and what an impact it's had for me professionally as well. So I was a first-generation student.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. So the opportunity to come and learn and get my degree through K-State was just a phenomenal opportunity, and it really shaped me personally, and had a big impact for my career over time. Mm-hmm. So the opportunity came up for both me and my wife, who also graduated from K-State, and which is where I met her, to come back and serve the institution. And so we both jumped at the chance to come back and live in Manhattan, Manhappiness, I should say, and work at the university. And really, hopefully, the work that we're doing today really helps us be successful as an institution, but also preserves that for future generation of K-Staters. And case in point, I've actually managed to get 3 of my kids through K-State as well. My oldest graduated a couple of years ago with a degree in chemical engineering. My twins just graduated this last semester, personal financial planning and nutritional sciences. And then I've got one more.
All right.
And I think I've got her talked into coming to K-State. So I think I'm going to have 4.
4 for 4.
4 for 4.
That's pretty good then.
Yep. And we're both really proud of all of them. Yeah.
That's awesome. And you got a great place, I think, north of town.
We did, yeah.
I actually saw some pictures of the Northern Lights. I think you had a great view.
Yes,
actually.
we did.
Jealous.
Yeah, it was really good. Yeah, we just recently bought some property about 30 minutes outside of town, and trying the country life now. We lived inside the city for about 9 years, and then just recently moved out.
That's
so
great.
We're enjoying it.
We're so glad to have you back. So, in Next Gen Strategic Plan, the plan is comprised of several different strategic imperatives. One of which is build and sustain the next gen land grant workforce. Can you share our philosophy on that and what you're doing to accomplish that task?
So we're working really hard. Ultimately, we want to be the model of employer for both the region as well as within the industry of higher education. So we want to be that employer of choice. And so we're working on a lot of different initiatives. You might think of them almost as fundamental initiatives that help us build and sustain that next generation workforce. And so a couple of things that we're working on are creating a standardized performance management system. And so something that we've not necessarily had before, but we want to provide a standardized performance evaluation, performance training system to help our workforce be successful. We also are in the midst of, or we'll be working on a comprehensive compensation study this next fall. So being that next generation workforce, you've got to make sure you compensate and reward appropriately. And so we're going to undertake a market study this next fall that helps us understand where are we lagging in the market so that we can attract and retain the best and brightest faculty and staff and researchers. But we also then want to understand what's our compensation philosophy that we want to have as an institution. Where do we want to be at within that market and offer those wages? That then helps us set that baseline for what we need to work on and work to improve our compensation for our faculty and staff, which is really, you mentioned the $900 million operating budget earlier. The bulk of our budget is really just tied up in our people. And that's what makes an institution successful is the people that work and live there every day.
Yeah, you need the people. So off the top of your head, how many employees roughly at the university, faculty and staff?
We have about a little over 5,500 total faculty and staff employees at the university. And then we have a significant number of student workers that come into play as well. And then a number of temp and ongoing.
Yeah, so that's really important having that. Not that we haven't had performance evaluations, obviously we have, but a kind of a unified standard.
Yeah, what we found is when we kind of did a little bit of work in that area, we found a wide variety of ways that people were managing staff. And so you might have one staff member in one unit being have their performance evaluated in one way, one fashion, under one scale. And then in a totally different unit, but the same type of work being done, evaluated differently. So it was hard to have that consistency. It was hard for people to understand, how do I be successful in my role? What are the support mechanisms I need to have in place? And so that's why it was important for us to sort of get that baseline fundamental system put in place for our workforce.
Absolutely. That's going to help everybody.
Yeah.
So we also launched initial phase of the campus master plan recently.
We did.
So that's been ongoing only for, I guess several months now, since spring of last year. Can you share about where we're at in that process and how that's going?
Yeah, just a little bit too about what is a master plan.
Yeah.
Really, these only come along about once a decade. And so if you think back, our previous master plan that we had in place was before we had the business building, before we had the engineering facility renovations, before we had our welcome center. So you think about all those fundamental building blocks that we have today that makes campus today. That's what a master plan really sets us up to have for the future. So what are going to be those next phase of facilities that we need to have in place to achieve all our goals and objectives? And it's really our opportunity to align the master plan with the next gen strategic plan. So, we've got goals in research, we've got goals in instruction and enrollment, and we want to make sure that we have the facilities that support those areas. So what does that really look like from a physical building standpoint? And so it's a phenomenal and exciting opportunity for all of our stakeholders, and we've engaged a lot of stakeholders in this process up to this point. To give us their feedback about what is it we need to preserve, because there are aspects of our campus that we want to make sure that we preserve from a historical and even as an alum, right? There are some areas that you just hold dear to your heart. Anderson Hall being one. And then what are areas that we can transform and make better for the next generation of Wildcats? And so it's a phenomenal opportunity for us. I mentioned we've made it through most of our stakeholder engagement at this point, and so we've had surveys. I believe the Alumni Association also helped push the word out to your members as well, which we appreciate. Yeah,
that was great. I really love how, in terms of surveys and input, we really included everybody. So it was faculty, staff, students. We pushed out to alumni late spring, and so we're getting all that feedback, which is great.
So next up, the next phase really is our consulting group that's helping us do this work. They're going to take all that feedback and start looking at and developing some alternatives for us to consider. And so over the next several months, we're going to start narrowing that funnel down to ultimately what we would like to see in our final plan, which we anticipate would be released in early 2025 at this point.
Gotcha. Any tidbits on input, feedback, either that was surprising or amusing in terms of what you got back so far?
I'm sure there's we've had a lot of commentary in a lot of different ways. So areas obviously that we can improve as a university, but then areas that I found interesting is everyone loves the green spaces that we have on campus. They value, if you think about the quad or you think about the lawn in front of Anderson Hall, value those spaces. but they want better ways to engage in those spaces. So we don't really facilitate classroom instruction out there or meeting spaces or other ways to engage because we don't really have infrastructure out there. So we don't have seating necessarily. We don't have canopies, things like that could enable people to engage in those green spaces better. So I found that very interesting.
You're right. We don't have many events planned on those green spaces.
No, we don't.
Good point.
So how in our next phase of a campus master plan, how do we better engage and bring those spaces to life so they're not just there as an opportunity?
Yeah. Okay, so moving on, that's in the same vein. So deferred maintenance, that's always a big topic. Maybe talk about that, and then ongoing upcoming projects on campus.
So deferred maintenance, it's a big challenge here at the university. So just, again, level set context on what is deferred maintenance. Basically, it's any type of annual maintenance or system replacements that we should have done, but we haven't been able to do that. And that could happen for a variety of reasons, but the biggest reason is funding, right? So maybe we should have replaced a whole HVAC system within a building because it's end of life. Well, because of funding, we don't have the ability to really do that. And so we limp it along, we patch it, we try to keep it going. So you add all that up over a significant number of buildings and facilities at the institution, you get to where what's called a deferred maintenance backlog then. And so what we do is we have a team within our division facilities that goes out and looks at all of our buildings, does a rating to understand what would it take in today's dollars to bring those systems and buildings up to what we consider just a B grade. We know some buildings are going to be better than a B, some are going to be less than a B, but what the Board of Regents would like us to at least aspire to and attain is getting everything up to a B. So our last tally of all that, it would take about $446 million investment just to bring all of our mission critical buildings up to that B level. And mission critical really just refers to instructional spaces where we conduct our research, some of our core administrative buildings. Anderson Hall, again, is one of those areas. So that's $446 million that we would need to invest. And so how we're working to address that is last several years we've had a great partnership with the state of Kansas, the university, our students, and also our donors as well. So thanks to the legislature and the governor, they've supported additional funds to come to higher education institutions that you can use in one of two ways. The first way is really just demolishing obsolete facilities. And when you do that, you take that deferred maintenance immediately off the books. So it's just wiped off the books at that point. And so a good example of that is Edwards Hall. It had been a athletics residence hall back in, I think, the 60s. We converted it to a administrative building, and if you worked in there, you had the opportunity potentially. You still had a bathtub maybe in your office,
who wouldn't,
a sink. Who wouldn't want that, right?
Yeah.
But it was in really, really poor condition, and so we were able to take that down and just eliminate that deferred maintenance.
Well, and you eliminate costs too.
And
so
costs,
ongoing costs, just upkeep and whatnot.
That's exactly.
So not only deferred maintenance to bring it up to speed, but you save some cost savings too.
The other component of the program that's come from the state is what's required is a dollar for dollar funding match. So the state gave us $1. We just then have to, when we use it, match it with some other funds. And so we've been able to put that into play in a multitude of projects that at this point we're anticipating would reduce our deferred maintenance backlog just for that component by about $44 million.
That's huge.
And so, those funding sources come from our donors. They come from our students. There's a component of the tuition fee that they pay that is for facilities, and also any other funding that we can kind of pull together at the institution. And so between demolition, deferred maintenance, a couple of other big projects that we've got underway, the College of Ag innovation projects that are in play, and then we're also working on disposing of one of our facilities as well. In the next several years, we anticipate we will have addressed that $446 million we will have taken about 40% of that off the books.
Almost
so
half.
It's
incredible.
Kudos to our division facilities who has been just working their tails off trying to put all this into play and
awesome.
address that deferred maintenance backlog.
That's going to be a big help. Maybe just touch on, you mentioned ag innovation. So what's going on there?
Yeah.
We've also got Anderson Hall.
Yeah.
I know we want to talk about.
Yeah. So on the ag innovation, it's $210 million worth of projects spread across about 5 facilities. So a new agronomy research facility up on North Campus. We've got a new livestock arena also up on North Campus. And then it will be significant renovations to Call Hall and Weber Hall. And then right in between that will be a brand new Global Center for Grain and Food Innovation. And so we have, on that particular one, you may have, if you've driven through campus lately, you'll notice Weber Arena has been taken down. Or is actually in the process of being taken down. So a lot of work is getting started. We've got almost all the contracts signed, and work is underway in almost all those areas. Last 2 contracts we have are for renovations in Colin Weber at this point. So,
and then completion date, total.
Everything has to be complete by September of 2026. There's some funding that has some of those end dates in there, and so those are the dates that we're working.
2 years away.
Yeah, it's coming quick.
It is.
It's coming quick.
You
mentioned Anderson Hall. Yeah, Anderson. So that's always an exciting one. Again, one of those treasured spaces that you have on campus. And so we've done some minor renovations you might have seen. We put in some new purple lights. So if you're coming up on campus late at night, that tower lights up purple now.
It is pretty neat.
Actually, that was an idea by the president.
It's incredible.
That was his idea to.
And I remember last fall going and actually looking at the lights, and we helped determine the exact purple.
Yeah.
But it is pretty neat. At night, you can see that purple shining from Anderson Hall Tower.
Yeah, it looks really good, I think.
It's awesome.
And then if you've ever walked through that first floor, it didn't necessarily present the best image. And so we're actually right in the midst of some fairly significant cosmetic renovations in there, some new paint, some new ceilings, new lighting. So we anticipate being done with that probably mid to late August. And so we're working hard to put that together. But we actually have a lot more to do in that arena for Anderson Hall to preserve that, because that's one of the themes that we heard is how do we preserve some of those spaces. And so a lot more to come on Anderson Hall for the future.
Now, I'm not going to let you get off the hook either. So you mentioned ag innovation. You talked about campus master plan. You talked about Anderson Hall. People want to know, what about Ahern?
Ahern, yep.
Right?
Nope, I hear
That's
you.
always the question that gets asked.
I get that question quite a bit. Yeah,
exactly. It's one of your favorite.
Again, nothing. We don't know definitive plans yet. We have captured. I mentioned during the campus master planning, we've got a lot of stakeholder feedback. We've captured a lot of good ideas. So no definitive plans. What I will commit to is and I especially understand the importance that Ahern represents from our athletic and legacy culture. And so we want to make sure we preserve that in anything that we do for Ahern in the future.
The big thing is it's not going away, but yet to be determined what that will look like in the future.
That's exactly right.
Yep. It's just such an iconic building. So, well, this has been great. Anything else you'd like to share?
I think I'm good on that piece. Yeah.
Okay. Well, this has been great. Well, one of my favorite parts is obviously this is a scoop on K-State. So at the end, we get to share what our guests selected for their Call Hall ice cream. So what's in your cup today?
It's Purple Pride.
What else, right?
Got to go with Purple Pride. I don't think you can be a true K-Stater unless you've tasted Purple Pride.
And you know what's interesting? So we just scooped over 6,000 scoops of ice cream for orientation enrollment for students and parents this summer. And I was surprised how many people had not had Purple Pride.
Yeah, I serve.
And they're like, "What is it?"
Yeah, I serve ice cream at the graduation that you guys host.
Yeah.
And so a couple people, what is Purple Pride? Yeah. You got to taste it.
Oh, and once you try it, it's great.
Yeah. Yep,
it is
I
wonderful.
agree.
Well, thanks for being with us. We're so fortunate to have you in this pivotal time at the university, and we really appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Adam. Appreciate it.
That wraps up another episode of The Scoop on K-State. I'm Adam Walker, President and CEO of the K-State Alumni Association, and I want to thank you for being a part of our show. Until next time, be sure to share this podcast with your friends and family. Select that follow button on your podcast app so you'll never miss another episode. And on behalf of the K-State Alumni Association staff, we're proud to be your connection to campus. We value and appreciate your ongoing support and membership. If you're not currently a member, please consider joining. And
Go Cats.